Hey, Dr. Rashik here of Neurogenomics, making another video update on COVID-19 topics. Today we will not be talking about vaccines per se. Rather, this video is dedicated to vitamin D science, especially how it relates to how it might be helping against COVID-19, so somewhat related topic. So first of all, I wanted to let you know before we get started that we have another COVID-19 Q&A event coming up, and please stay till the end to find out how you could get some free tickets, okay? So first of all, also, before we get into the science, when I talk about vitamin D, please note that when you take vitamin D, what happens is that vitamin D has to be converted to specific metabolites. So it is the metabolites themselves that execute the protective functions. So first of all, when you take vitamin D, it is converted to a compound called calcifediol. That's done by the liver, and then that compound itself subsequently can be converted into another compound called calcitriol, and that's done by kidneys. So it is these metabolites that do the protective function. So however, I'll just, for sake of simplicity, I'll be referring to it as vitamin D. So one of the ways of how vitamin D might be enacting its protective mechanism is by being able to potentially bind viral proteins directly. So to give you a couple of examples, one of the proteins that vitamin D, this is based on computational modeling. Thousands upon thousands of different chemicals have been studied computationally to see what could be potential drugs to treat COVID-19 at the start of pandemic. And this is some of the data that was produced as well. And one of the proteins that is suspected that could be bound by these vitamin D metabolites is the main protease. That main protease is an enzyme, viral enzyme, that is used by the virus to help process some of the proteins that are being produced from the viral genome. And it's also the main enzyme that is inhibited by the new Pfizer COVID-19 drug. Now, forgive me, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but it's something like the Paxlovid new drug that Pfizer has put out. So that's one of the enzymes that could be targeted by vitamin D metabolites. Another one is the RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which is the protein that the virus uses in order to copy its genomes and make more copies of its genetic material when it produces more viral particles. And that specific protein is also inhibited by the remdesivir drug. So it's interesting that a couple approved medications for fighting COVID-19 that target specific proteins might also be targeted by vitamin D metabolites. So that's one possible way how vitamin D could be helping. But, and this is especially why I found this topic so interesting to me, is because another way is that vitamin D actually can modulate how our genes are being used. So it's known that vitamin D can modulate how the immune system responds. So let's unpack that a little bit, because this is where I found it really fascinating. So vitamin D metabolites can interact with a protein called vitamin D receptor, and vitamin D receptor is actually a transcription factor. Now, what are transcription factors? Transcription factors are proteins that go inside a nucleus and interact with our DNA and determine which genetic information is used within our genome. So as it happens actually frequently, vitamin D receptor transcription factor has to interact with another transcription factor. This is very common how this happens. And the second transcription factor it interacts with is referred to as retinol X receptor. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I've already introduced the concept in my previous videos, including the last video that I made, which discussed the electric charge of spike protein. So, and when I discussed that information, I talk about how we can obtain very detailed three-dimensional atomic structures of proteins, and the same has been achieved for how these transcription factors actually bind to the DNA. And when that happens, what these transcription factors tell the cell is, hey, copy these specific genes into mRNA. So when you copy genetic material into mRNA, that's called transcription. Hence, mRNA themselves can sometimes be referred to as transcripts as well. All right, and then these mRNAs act as blueprints to produce a specific proteins of interest. And in this case, vitamin D promotes generation of what is referred to as antimicrobial peptides. And this has been known for a very long time, that these antimicrobial peptides that are built as a consequence of vitamin D can be very protective against a variety of different infections, and it appears that they are also effective against SARS-CoV-2 infection. So this has been already studied, showing that these antimicrobial peptides do inhibit infection by SARS-CoV-2 virus, and it appears that these peptides might be achieving that, at least partially, by being able to bind the spike protein of the virus directly. So that could be another method of how vitamin D could be protecting against COVID-19. Now, the final method I wanted to mention is that it's also been known for a very long time that vitamin D is anti-inflammatory, and therefore it can affect how the cytokines of the immune cells work. So recall that certain people, when they get infected with the virus, they can develop extreme version of COVID-19, and they can experience what is referred to as cytokine storm. And what happens there, it's the macrophages that are immune cells that are inside lungs. They basically use too many cytokines, and it is believed that these antimicrobial peptides that are produced as a consequence of vitamin D could be reducing that cytokine storm effect. So these are the three methods how the vitamin D could be helping against COVID-19. One more information I can mention is that it's also known that vitamin D can be antithrombotic, meaning that it can help prevent clot development. But in terms of COVID-19 and the information I was just telling you, that's also been studied extensively in clinical trials, especially in Spain. So that information has been very well worked out, and these clinical trials kept demonstrating that basically, when used prophylactically, vitamin D does reduce the likelihood of extreme outcomes, including dying from infection. So if you want to learn more, the links to all of the information I've just told you about will be in the description below. Now let's talk about the event that is coming up. I wanted to just let you know that the first 10 people who will subscribe to Merogenomics newsletter will send you free tickets. So check it out. The link to the subscription is in the description below. These events are a lot of fun. Basically, we go through top 10 questions that we assemble based on what people have submitted in the past from YouTube videos, and then it's open mic, so we let the audience ask whichever questions they want. So check it out. Now, if you like these videos, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video. That's how we grow, and we look forward to seeing you again. Bye everyone.